Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a very warm welcome to Weekend with Wisdom series. I'm Sri Hari Vittal, curator at Advaita Academy. Let's begin this session with an invocation. Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. In this Weekend with Wisdom series, we have been dwelling upon the topic Eternal Wisdom, a Manual to Life. And we are meeting for the third session in this series. We have with us Vinayji, who is guiding us through these talks. Namaste, Vinayji.
Namaskar. Hari Om to everyone.
Requesting you to begin the session.
Thank you. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So this morning, we will be studying the third session, where I would be covering the topics: how to be prosperous, at the same time, how can one remain peaceful, and the beautiful section, the glory of renunciation. Now, under prosperity with peace, I would cover the two primary motivations, the three states of mind, how to break the unending cycle, embrace action with a spirit of renunciation. Now, to begin with, the two primary motivations. If you carefully examine, broadly, everybody is trying to satisfy these two primary motivations. Everybody wants to constantly keep acquiring, whether be it knowledge, whether be it materiality. They are trying to constantly acquire something in life. Having acquired, they want to enjoy it in their lives. As it is brought out in the text Bhajagovindam, everyone is trying to acquire to avoid future sorrow, for dukkha nivritti, and everybody wants to enjoy what they have acquired, sukha prapti. So there is this material acquisition, which is your material quotient, and then there is the enjoyment, which is your spiritual quotient. But sadly speaking, you find people today are either prosperous or either peaceful. You hardly find people who are prosperous and peaceful at the same breath. So there is a striking imbalance between their material quotient and their spiritual quotient. So to expand on this further, I would talk next about the three states of mind. The three states of mind, first is the inactive state, where people are predominantly into inaction or inactive. The second is an active state of mind, where people are performing a frenzied action. The third is a trans-active state of mind, where they perform inspired actions. So an inactive state of mind is where people are predominantly indolent, they are predominantly lazy, they become very stubborn, they're very rigid to whatever activities or lifestyle that they do. It's very difficult to bring about a change in their attitude or bring about a change in their lifestyle. They become very rigid, stereotyped. They are reckless attitude in life. You can call that inactive state of mind as tamas. Tamas is a state where people are pretty set in a pattern and it's difficult to change them. And they think they're right in every possible way and impossible to convince them. It requires a lot of effort to bring about a change in them. Rajas is a state where people are into an action which is a sort of a frenzy. They are all the time hurrying, worrying, rushing, get into a frenzy, as I said, as a result of which they find themselves always very restless. They're very hyperactive, they're very agitated, they're very disturbed. Not only are they disturbed, they create a chaos around them. They're very hoo-ha. They are the rajasic people. And then you find the third category are the trans-active mind or the trans-active state, where their mind is in a state where they perform inspired actions. And that state where your actions are inspired because you're operating on sattva. So sattva is a state where your actions are inspired for a greater cause, a larger cause. which results in a certain amount of peace, a harmony. You remain very equanimous. You become very matured and very balanced in life. So what I am trying to mention here, the 3 states of mind is a state of tamas where people are inactive. As a result of their inaction, they are finding themselves at peace. Now, rajas is a state where they get into a frenzied action. I'm just capturing again what I've just said, where you get into a frenzied action, as a result of which you are into a state of constant mental agitation. And the third is a state of sattva, where you perform inspired action, and as a result of which you are at peace, you are at rest. Now, what if you carefully look at life, everybody is caught up in a vicious cycle. There is sort of people have got into a trap. I'm talking of entire humanity at large. They have got into a trap, an unending vicious cycle. And this is applicable to individuals, applicable to societies and countries, nations at large, humanity at large. Now, it's not my opinion, but it's an observation, like very candid observation. Now, you look at it, you can relate to what I'm saying. Now, what is this unending cycle people are going through? Now, after this, I'll explain myself further. Now, if you look at, as I've said, rajas is where people are into action and they are agitated. Since they're agitated, they have lost their peace of mind. They get into tamas. They find peace. So they give up action, but they find peace. But they have lost their productivity. So what they do, they get again into action. They become into a frenzied action. They become productive, but they lost peace. So now they want peace. What do? Again, they slip back into tamas. So when they slip back into tamas, they get peace, but again, they lost their productivity. So again, they go back into the cycle of rajas, tamas, tamas, rajas, rajas, tamas, tamas, rajas. So people are just trying to switch from one stand to the other. Either you compromise productivity for peace, or either you compromise peace for productivity. You hardly find anybody who can club these both and find a charm in life where you're able to get both these ingredients. That is a rarity. You're not able to get this productivity and peace together. Now, just to expand myself further, now if you look at societies, it perhaps becomes easier because it is magnifying the concept so that you can see it clearly. Now, I'm not branding them as such, but you find majority are in that order. Now, for example, if you look at any developed country, any advanced developed nation in the world today, you take, for example, a country like Japan. So they're so technologically advanced. They're so superior in everything that they do. They have the precision in their technology. They are so addicted to their work. They're all workaholics. You know, Japan is the only country, I think maybe they were one of the first few countries who have invented these bullet trains, you know, the super fast trains. And in fact, they are the only country in the world, when you go to their railway stations and their platforms, their train timings of their arrival are based, including seconds. So if it is 11:15, it will be showing 11 49, and the second column also is there. And so much so, if they are delayed by a few seconds or a minute, they apologize to their customers or the public for being late for a minute. So you're talking of that level of efficiency as a country, not me starting a class on time. I would like to be there well ahead of my time and be there on time. It's not an individual or two of you all may appreciate that. But as a country, imagine everybody works that way. But yet they're so industrious and prosperous. At the same time, you find Japan is also known as the suicide capital of the world. They're so highly stressed, clocking in 18, 20 hours every day, 6 days a week. They keep working as a workaholic, and they find themselves so extremely stressed that they have lost their peace of mind. On you go to the other extreme, you find certain countries, the undeveloped parts of the world, where you find there is so much pristine nature. They thrive on tourism. For example, you take a country like Bhutan. They find people go there to unwind, to disconnect with the world. You don't find, perhaps, in fact, even when you go there on a tourism, they say your networks will not work there. They give you a precursor note. You may not be reachable. Be prepared. Oh no, thank you, sir. I'm going there because I don't want to be reached. I want to be disconnected from the world. So even if network doesn't come, I'm fine. So they are such state, quite a contrast to the advancement and the development. You find they are in a cocoon of their own pristine nature. As a result of which, you find people are so well in their own peace and comfort, but there are no productivity, there is no prosperity, there is no industrialization, there is no advancement, no technology. So you see, tamas, there are some part of the world where there is peace and no production, there's production and peace. But to find a state of sattva where there is peace and productivity is a rarity. Now that is a rarity, hardly known, hardly conceived, hardly followed. So I can't really give a nation, or I can give an example, but you can only visualize what I'm saying, where you are productive, at the same time you're able to maintain your inner peace and charm. So what we are actually getting at is what this philosophy is saying, what this wisdom is sharing, is that you should reach a state where your body should be in the law of dynamics. So the law of dynamics says that you must be in action, you must be in motion. So you must try to keep your body in constant action. At the same time, you must also ensure that your mind is constantly kept into the law of statics. Means your mind is stationary, your mind is balanced, your mind is poised. So while your body is active, your mind should be like a placid pool. Like if you see in a clear pool of water, you look over into the water and you look into the sheet of water, you can actually see your clear reflection. So your mind is so clear, so poised, so much at peace, at ease, that your mind is in the law of statics while your body is in the law of dynamics. So your mind should be contented with what you have. Your intellect should be driven to serve a lofty cause, a higher goal. In effect, what I'm saying is your body must be dynamic. If you club those 2 points I've made, your body must be dynamic, your mind must be balanced, and your intellect must be inspired. But this is a rarity. This is a state of sattva. A sattvic state is where you're able to get that ideal balance between action and peace. So as I've said, humanity at large is languishing between rajas and tamas. Everybody is caught up in the cycle of rajas and tamas. Now the question is how to get out of this vicious cycle. If I were to ask you all, and I would like to hear from you all, how do you think one can get out of this vicious cycle? How to get out of this cycle? What is the solution to this? Now let me hear from some of you. There are some familiar names here. Let me ask them first. Aparagaru, any ideas, sir? How do you think we can get out of this vicious cycle?
Yeah, Guruji, just like now, it reflects on what you have said a short while back. Basically, if someone is working towards a goal with an expectation, then he gets agitated. So the expectation and is something that is going to agitate. So one should not think about the expectation and start working for a goal.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said, sir?
So one should work towards a goal without any expectation.
One should work towards a goal without an expectation. In fact, this were exactly what I was getting at. The solution to get out of rajas and tamas is to start leading a life of sattva. And the acid test, whether you are sattvic, it begins with you must conceive a common cause, conceive a goal or a purpose which is inclusive. A rajasic person is all the time interested in his own well-being, his own welfare. What can I get out of it for myself? Sattva, the flavor of sattva is the moment your actions are directed towards a common cause. And once you conceive a common cause, you must act in a spirit of service and sacrifice. So if I have identified a cause to serve this wisdom, and this wisdom should serve one and all, having conceived, all I should do is, in what way can I be of service to you? How can this wisdom serve you all? How can it enrich your life? That should be the only outlook, the only purpose, the only way I will be able to get out of this vicious cycle of the rajas and tamas. And that way you will be able to satisfy the two primary motivations, which is acquisition and enjoyment. Means once you become active, once you become productive, automatically it will reflect in you. You will become prosperous. Your material quotient means whatever you need, it's provided for. In fact, you will get more than what you aspire for. At the same time, you will find yourself so mentally at peace and happiness. In fact, in the second chapter of the Gita, the 41st verse, he says, Neha bhikramana shosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayato mahato bhayat. Trayato mahato bhayat. This protects one from great fear. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya. Swalpam, this very little of this. Swalpam is very little. Dharmasya means once you work towards a common cause, means work with the spirit of service and sacrifice. If you conceive a cause and work towards it, It protects you from great fear. And then further he says, Neha bhikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate. In this, there is no loss of energy nor any contrary result. Means one who works with the spirit of sacrifice, there is no loss of energy. Means there is no dissipation of your valuable resources. At the same time, it doesn't produce contrary result. Contrary result means unfavorable result. Unfavorable result is anything that produces mental agitation, anything that produces a disturbed state is contrary result. So he says, one who works with a sattvic life, there is no fear, there is no insecurity, means you find peace, nor are there any consequences which are unfavorable. Therefore, as the Shastras say, one who works with that spirit goes through this phase where he experiences this intensely, where you experience that intense work is rest. You find yourself at peace, at rest, in spite of the intense work that you produce. You don't have to abandon work to find peace and happiness. You find it in the spirit, in the garb of work. And how do you achieve that? Is by embracing action with the spirit of renunciation. You embrace action with the spirit of renunciation. So what I've said so far is I've mentioned about the two primary motivations of acquisition and enjoyment. I said a human mind is of three types: the sattva, rajas, tamas, the active, the inactive, and the transactive. Then I said, what is tamas, what is rajas, what is sattva? Then I spoke about the vicious cycle, how people have caught up in. And if you have to get out of it, you must conceive a higher cause, a larger cause. And that becomes a means of you getting out of the cycle of rajas and tamas. And once you embrace that action with the spirit of renunciation, as the Shastras say, it's said in the Gita, Tyaga Shantim Anantaram. Once you embrace Tyaga, renunciation, Shantim Anantaram, the peace immediately follows, means you have to live a life of renunciation. In fact, the glorious truths of Sanatana Dharma, it says you must live a life of renunciation. Now here, renunciation is so misunderstood. So the next section I'm going to talk about is the glory of renunciation. What is the beauty of renunciation? So firstly, we will try and demystify what this renunciation is, because it's often misunderstood. People shudder at the thought of trying to renounce anything. If I were to knock at your door and say, please renounce, you say, oh my God, what am I to renounce? And everything is very dear to me. My home, my belongings, my family, my work, my possessions, everything is very dear to me. I don't want to renounce anything in my life. So we're going to demystify what is this concept of renunciation, and then renounce the non-essentials of action. And lastly, touch on the three types of renunciation. Now, demystifying renunciation. Most people, as I've said, have actually misunderstood the concept of renunciation. So by the very word renunciation, people think it is to give up. In fact, it is right. Renunciation is giving up. Renunciation is abandoning. Renunciation is forsaking. Renunciation is denying. But then you may ask me, sir, renounce what? What am I to renounce? So the Shastras are saying renounce the, okay, the best way to explain it is to give an example. Balasubramanian sir, a simple question keklama. Let's say you come to a house, okay? When you come to a house, I offer you some dry fruits along with a cup of coffee. And the dry fruits I only have with me is a lot of pistachio. So I offer a bowl of pistachio and a mug of coffee. And you say, sir, this is in fact too much. I would be happy with a cup of coffee. No, sir, please have something. This is the only thing I can offer. No problem. But the problem is I have the pistachio as a whole with the shell and I haven't peeled them. So I give you the pistachio with the shell. Now, since I have been very insistent that you must have few, what would you do, sir?
Yeah, peeling, of course, is going to be it'll be a cumbersome thing, but you'll probably take the coffee only.
Sir, you have to eat, sir. You're not being very cooperative with me.
Okay.
Let's say I will say you have to at least have 2-3 pistachio.
Yeah, 2-3 probably you can peel and can identify the split ones and then peel it and take.
No, all come naturally split, so you don't have to worry because they roast them and the heat, they come up, open up, you know. So what I'm getting at is what you would naturally do is if I offer you the pistachio, you will peel the shell, disregard the shell and eat the nut, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what you have done essentially, you have renounced the shell and enjoyed the nut. Is it not?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes,
as
sir.
simple as that, isn't it? Jashrima, very good. Jashrima, if I can ask you, if I offer you a basket full of bananas and say at least you have one banana, what would you do?
I'll take one banana, peel it and eat.
What would you peel?
Banana peel I will remove and the inside portion I will eat.
We will peel the banana,
I will throw the,
renounce the peel and enjoy the fruit,
Yeah.
isn't it?
yes.
If I were to give you a wrapper of chocolate, a chocolate rather, wrapped up in a wrapper,
Yeah.
what do? You will unwrap,
Remove the wrapper.
remove the wrapper, enjoy the chocolate. Now, I'm just giving simple, down-to-earth, mundane examples to just convey this. That when how do you approach life? Is you renounce the non-essentials
Yes.
and you enjoy the essential, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So the essential is the fruit, the nut, and the chocolate,
Or the shell,
not the shell,
or
not
the
the
peel.
wrapper, not the peel.
Yeah.
So when the masters say renunciation is bliss, that you must live a life of renunciation, they are only trying to tell us you must renounce the non-essentials of life and enjoy the essential aspect.
Yes. Yes.
But we, the ignoramuses, we don't understand that, isn't it?
Yes.
So the example, at least you'll not forget.
Yeah. Okay.
What are the 3 examples?
Banana, chocolate, and pistachio.
So what did you learn today? You say, I learned about pistachio, how to peel a pistachio, how to remove wrapper of a chocolate, and how to peel a banana. That's all you learned in the weekend with wisdom was this. That's all for you.
Yes, Guruji.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ma. So now if you draw the analogy to our real life, what these masters are saying is you must renounce the non-essentials of action. Now, what are the non-essentials in action that constantly haunt you? What are the non-essentials? Now, let's take a quick look. What are the non-essentials? The non-essentials of action, which you ought to renounce, firstly, is your wrong attitude to action. The ego that you bring into the action while you're performing the action. the attachment that you develop towards everything that you relate with, while you're acting, the unnecessary worry and anxiety that you carry, the anxiety of the fruit that you seek in your efforts or endeavors, and the complexes which you bring into action and makes your life complex. You unnecessarily complicate your life by living a life of complexes. So if you renounce these appendages, renounce these aspects, what happens? The action becomes beautiful. So these are the things which actually spoil or impoverish or ruin the action. Now, just let's take one by one quickly and get an understanding. What is the wrong attitude one has? We're talking about what's the wrong attitude to action? Gayatri Ma?
Wrong attitude one usually has is, like, what will I get for performing any action? And secondly, anything it has been done also, I have done it. They keep on, if it is successful, they say, I have done it. These two are major things which comes.
So the wrong attitude, which you rightly say is the selfishness. What can I get out of that action? And every action, until you hit that 100% selflessness, every action, there is an element of selfishness. There is an element of selfish resistance or selfish arrogation, isn't it? So it is important for one to identify what is the attitude with I'm performing the action. So as long as there is this selfish or self-centered attitude, it spoils the action. And often we give the example, this kind of a selfish attitude is like a drop of lime in milk. It spoils it all. It destroys the purity of the action. Now, second is to have an egoistic opinion, an egoistic notion. Now, what does ego do? What is ego? I know people say ego is edging God out. Where there is ego, there is no God. Means you have kicked out God. There is no divinity in you. There's also, people say ego is nothing but an exaggerated glorification of oneself. You glorify yourself to such an extent that you feel yourself all important in anything that happens around you. You think things cannot happen without me. So an attitude where you believe things can only happen with you. So ego is nothing but a glorification of oneself. Now, if you look at life, everybody has some ego or the other. So one should consciously try to liquidate the ego. So when you look yourself around you, a typical example could be in an orchestra. When you go to any philharmonic centers, where they have these performances by these troops or various musicians come and they perform. Find at times there are over 100 musicians seated on that stage. And everybody is so beautifully integrated. Each one is playing the role. And if I consider myself all important, I'll not be able to play that role well. But if I understand myself as just a part of that role everybody is playing, and I need to play my role, So if I consider myself one amongst the 100 people on the stage, my ego is liquidated to 100th. But if I consider myself all that important, but not disregarding the 99 others, my ego is 100%, that much more pronounced. And the more your ego, the more there is friction or conflict with the world you would have. And you find this especially in your work atmosphere. When you go out into work, there's so much of conflict and friction with the workforce. So ego plays such a big role in destroying your peace and harmony. There's a beautiful saying that it is not the clash of views that create a conflict. It's actually the clash of egos that creates conflict. What brings about differences is not different views or different opinions. What brings about conflict is my view vis-a-vis your view. It's not the view, but the accent is more on whose view it is. So if that I and my in the view can be taken out, if that I-ness and minus can be disregarded and present your view, whosever view is in the best interest is accepted. There's nothing to worry about. All right. So the third thing that disturbs your action, that ruins your action, which ought to be renounced, is your attachment. And the law of attachment says, as you think, so you become. The law of attachment says, as you think, so you become. So when you think of something, what happens the moment you think of something? You become the object of your attachment. If you are thinking of your child, however grown your child is, you may say, for me, my child is child, no? And you are constantly attached to the child. So as you, because of your attachment to the child, you become the child. So what happens? Whatever happens to your child invariably happens to you. If you're attached to money, whatever happens to money happens to you. If you're attached to name and somebody hurts your ego, it hurts you, it affects you. If you're attached to your car, somebody scratches your car, finished. It causes enormous pain to you. So attachment causes enormous pain. And when you are acting, we invariably develop an attachment to things and causes a lot of unnecessary pain. So if you're attached to something, you change your status. In fact, if I'm attached to an object, what happens? I am the owner. The object is my possession. I am the possessor. The object is possessed by me, isn't it? The car, I am the owner of the car. I am the owner of my belongings. But when I have attached to them, I become the object. So what happens? Instead of me possessing the object starts possessing me. So this tamasha is actually happening. This tamasha is actually happening in everybody's life. If I am little objective and I look at your life, I know where you are become a slave to your object. If you're attached to your home, anything happens to your house, it happens to you. If you're attached to your wealth, if something happens to your wealth, it happens to you. So what happening? You have become from the possessor, you have become the possessed. So what Vedantic wisdom says, you must be a possessor. Don't be the possessed. Let not the world of things and beings around you to possess you. You must possess them, but not be possessed by them. And how do you achieve that state of being the possessor? Annapurnama, if I can ask you, how do you achieve that state of becoming the possessor?
Hari Om Guruji.
Om.
By renouncing detachment to the object.
What do you renounce? Sorry?
Attachment to the object.
For a moment, my heart skipped a beat. You are gone one step ahead. You said you renounce the detachment itself, is it? You have to, rightly said, you have to renounce your attachment, which means you must learn to develop an attitude of detachment, isn't it? And what is the classic example we are often given in Vedantic studies of detachment?
I'm missing that, Guruji, sorry.
Not at all, not at all. In fact, the classic example the Shastras give is they say you must live a life like a lotus leaf in water. It says Padma Patramivam Bhasaha, isn't it? If you are like a lotus leaf in water, means you remain there, yet you are not affected by it. You're not consumed by everything that happens around you. Now, as spiritual seekers, thank you, Ma. As spiritual seekers, we are familiar with these ideas, but when the concepts or these ideas are reiterated, when these ideas are revisited, re-examined, re-introspected, that aspect of sadhana reveals areas where you are unable to practice it. It reveals areas where you need to intensify the sadhana. So when you reinforce these ideas, you'll be able to see where you're able to lack, where you lack that objectivity, where you think I am attached. In fact, I should know what I'm attached to. So should you know what you're attached to. I should know where I should start practicing this spirit of detachment. So should you know exactly where you should inject that spirit of detachment. So renounce, so far what we have studied is you must renounce your wrong attitude to work. Never look at work with the spirit of what can I get out of it. Every time I meet you, I should not think, oh, what can I get out of our transaction? Our relationship must not be transactional. And whenever I relate with the world, let me not carry my ego with me. As they say, ego, how does ego come? How does ego arise? What's the cause of ego? Does anybody know? Yes, Soumyama?
Emptiness. You feel emptiness in you. Lacuna.
The feeling of emptiness is the cause of ego. In fact, the feeling of emptiness is the cause of desire. They say the void in you creates the vasana, the desire. But directly to the point of ego, where does ego arise from? So lacuna or that void doesn't create ego. There's no direct cause and effect. Okay. What is the cause? What causes ego? Hariji.
Yeah.
It is the separation that causes the ego. I am different from others, so I become more important.
All right, you're not wrong. In fact, you can put it either way, but you're right. Okay, the separation. Vijaya says where there's no oneness. Okay. Apparao Garu says craving for attention. Ashrama says due to extroverted nature, I want to be in the limelight, hence want to feel all important all the time. These are all expressions of ego. I'm asking, where does the ego arise from? Soumyam again says, by insecurity. But really, Annapurnama says ignorance that the whole world is impermanent. Not really. If you carefully examine, not that this is the only reason, there could be other reasons, as some of you have said, rightly so.
And another reason would be my memory of the past.
Correct. This is what I was getting at. Absolutely right, Hariji. What causes ego is your past memories. If you look back into your past and constantly live and ride on your past achievements, you have an ego today. So ego is because of your past. But if you have no memories of the past, no thoughts of what your past achievements are, you remain in the moment, in the present, you're pretty grounded. You have no ahankar, no unnecessary assume a status which I don't know what you are. I don't know your past, but you bring that past along with you and don't present yourself as who you are now. I can't relate to it. I only look at your ego. So you're presenting your ego to me. So ego arises from the past. So we spoke about wrong attitude. We spoke about ego. We spoke about attachments. All this have to be renounced. Then the fourth is you must get rid of your worries and anxieties. What is the worries? Worries and anxieties. Worries refers to your past. Worries always refers of the past. Anxiety is something which refer to the future. So the worries of the past and the anxieties of the future form a huge mental baggage. They create a mental burden. Imagine all your past worries and all your future anxieties are carried. What could happen? Aparagaru, if you carry all that on your head, what would happen, sir?
Misery, sir.
Total misery. In fact, we will not be able to sit quietly. We will not be able to sleep. We will not be able to live for a moment. You know, to help us this, I'm reminded of what is said in the context. As I said, nothing of this is mine. I'm just passing on the knowledge given from the gurus. And there's a reference in the Shastras. They say when God created mankind, when God created mankind, God has given us a gift of forgetfulness. That quality of forgetfulness is known as apohanam. Apohanam is that forgetfulness. So sir, in your life, I'm sure you had many challenges. You had to endure many tough situations. You had to go through some failures in life, isn't it, sir? It's a part and parcel of everybody's life, isn't it?
Yes.
Sir, when you had those moments of challenge or moments of difficulty or moments of failure, it would have been very hard for you to endure those moments. And if you were to recall all that pain, accumulation of all that failures and challenges and difficult moments, now this moment on the, what is today's date? 5th, 5th of February 2023, if you have to remember all your past 30-40 years of challenges, difficulties, failures, what you endured, this moment now, what would happen, sir?
Probably I have not existed till now.
Right, sir. Also imagine all the moments where Vasantama has been shouting at you and scolding you and complaining at you and all the arguments you had. And if you remember that, all that now, what would happen? Rama Rama, Krishna Krishna, it's not possible. Don't tell anything, sir, because Vasantama can hear if you say now. So don't say anything. Oh my God. Vasantama is hearing now. I'm getting into deep trouble. In fact, I've already got into trouble. So, sir, you'll have to tilt the camera to her. Hari Om, Namaskaram. So now I'll have to tell you, imagine you have to endure all Apparao Garu had to.
This is now reversed very comfortable.
This is very comfortable. Now she'll not go away from the camera now. So we're talking about the mental baggage that we carry, unnecessary baggage, isn't it? If we are able to shed that mental baggage, renounce the unnecessary thoughts of the past and the future, the present becomes such a delight, isn't it? So if we are able to learn that art, so wisdom, if it's intensified, it can facilitate that process of renouncing the past, which is dead, the future, which is unborn. You live in the present moment. Very easy to say, but very difficult to practice. Vasantama, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, Guruji.
Not easy at all, isn't it? But but if one is able to, and it's not difficult. As I say, it may sound an impossible thing, but it's not difficult. It's not difficult. In fact, of the story I often take, I'm repeating again because sometime it will strike somebody. Hopefully it will strike me. Always, when you keep teaching, it's like I'm lecturing to myself. So remember the story of two monks. They went to the village with some work and they finished their work by the end of the day and they were returning back to the monastery. And there was a river that they had to cross and they came back to the banks. And as they came to the banks, they saw a young lady. She was undecisive whether to cross. She also had to go to the same village and they recognized that she is from the same village. And they struck a conversation. And the monk asked, what is it that you're confused? Is this not the way back to the village? Yes, Swami, this is how we have to go back to the village. But I realized that the water level has risen. I came this morning, it was not that high. Now the water level is high. I feel a little insecure. I don't think I'll be able to comfortably cross the river. And of the two, one monk was an elderly man, the other monk was a young man. So elderly monk said, who had struck a conversation with her, if you don't mind, I'll carry you on my shoulders and I'll drop you other side and then we can walk back because we are going to the same village. She said, oh, that will be a great help, Swami. And the story goes, the monk carried her on his shoulders. He dropped her off that side. And As they soon approached the village, she went her way, they went their way to the monastery. But something was bothering the young monk. He said, my master, is it not that we as monks, we should not come in contact with women, and you have carried her on your shoulders, and that has been bothering me. I couldn't sleep the whole night. Can you please reconcile with me? Because this is what I've been taught all the time. And you as a senior, as my master, as my guru, you do it. I'm not able to digest it. I couldn't sleep. And to which the senior monk said to that young monk, I actually had dropped her off yesterday evening only on the shore. You're still carrying on your head. You just dropped that, he said. You see that? You are carrying it on your head, and you had sleepless night. I had dropped her off that very moment off the shore. So I had no problem. You carrying it on your head, it is your problem. Deal with it. I have nothing to do with it, he said. So now you see how we keep carrying the world beyond its purpose, beyond its existence. In fact, it's our unnatural way of living gives a reality to the world. The world has said, the world has come, the world has gone, but we give a reality to the world. So the solution to that is, if we learn to live in the world, in the moment, from moment to moment. There's a beautiful saying which says, you must learn to end perception with perception. If this perception has happened, I experience it. This dialogue has happened, I experience it. Thereafter, I end with it. I don't linger. I don't keep living and reliving and brooding and feeding and wishing and throbbing. Nah, I've gone through it. I end it. And that's when my mind always is in the moment. So you must renounce the worries and anxieties. And then the fifth is, you must renounce the fruits of your action. Very difficult to renounce the fruits. Sir, all the above I'll renounce. But how can you renounce the fruit of action, sir? Jashima is saying, no, it's impossible to renounce. Huh? You're saying impossible or difficult? Difficult. The famous words of Lord Krishna, Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Karmani eva adhikara. Now, the only way to reconcile this idea, how to renounce the fruits of action, he says, Karmani eva adhikara ma phaleshu kadachana. He says, the fruits of your action doesn't belong to you. Until they come to you, they don't belong to you. So why are you asking, wanting, desiring something before it's come? How do I know what I deserve? Can I know what I deserve? I don't know what I deserve. So how can I determine, how can I look for the reward or the fruit? I should not. So what the text says there is, your right is in the karma. Your right is in the performance of action. So if one keeps to the performance of action, do your dharma, do your duty, do what you ought to perform, and give up the fruit. In that way, you will find you are not interested in the outcome. Just like a sportsman, he cannot afford to think of winning the match while he's playing the match. As he's playing the match, he must enjoy the process of giving his best at that moment. Even if it means you may lose, doesn't matter. So don't worry of the fruit. Winning or losing is not the point. The point is, am I playing myself well now? If I play my match well, if I play myself well now, the result will automatically come. And even if the result is not in your favor, accept it because you have given your best. So every time you get into action, don't worry of the outcome. Think of the actions. And lastly, I'm going back to that we are discussing about. What we are discussing about is the non-essentials of action. The non-essentials of action which need to be renounced are the wrong attitude, your egoistic notion, your attachment to things and beings, the worries and anxieties, the fruits of your action, the karma phala, and lastly are the complexes. The complexes that one brings into the action which disturb and ruin the action are the inferiority complex and the superiority complex. For no reason we feel ourselves superior to someone. For no reason we feel ourselves inferior to someone. I don't see a reason why you should feel yourself superior or inferior. Each one of us have a place in life, don't we? We just have to identify ourselves with that role that we are playing. In fact, it's a human weakness is to constantly compare. So if you try and be yourself and don't compare yourself with others and be yourself as what you are, there is no unnecessary feeling of superiority or inferiority. So if you look at these ideas, if you're able to inject these ideas into your life, this is the applied wisdom we're talking about. If you're able to apply the wisdom, instantly you will find the benefit of renunciation. Therefore, what we are saying is it's not the renunciation of action, it is renunciation in action. So it is not that you must renounce activity. You must ensure that the action continues, but the spirit of renunciation is not renouncing action. It is maintaining renunciation, the attitude while the action is going on. And now you will certainly agree with me. It's not agreeing with me, but this is what the truth is. You will experience the truth yourself. The truth is what glorifies action is the spirit of renunciation. Now, if you don't understand this, you see the opposite of exactly what we said. What would be the opposite of what I said? Your attitude is selfish. You are glorified your ego. You're extremely possessive and attached. You're fully caught up with your own worries and anxieties. You're all the time interested in the outcome of whatever you do. Caught up in the play of complexes. Imagine all of these pounding on you every time you take to work. Or imagine a state where you are liberated from all these bondages. You will really realize that once you renounce these are the non-essentials, you will find action becomes glorious. Action becomes a point to celebrate. You enjoy the performance of your karma, your dharma. All right. Yes, Gayatri Ma.
I'll just post the link of Guruji's.
No, hello.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just trying to ask you're following what I'm saying.
Yes, Guruji.
Okay, well,
Yes.
right. Now, just a minute, please. Now, taking further, the last concept I would like to explain is the 3 types of renunciation, the 3 categories of renunciation. The 3 types of renunciation are tamasic renunciation, rajasic renunciation, and sattvic renunciation. So people misunderstand renunciation to be the false types of renunciation to be the actual renunciation. Misunderstood. So there needs to be clarity of what is, in fact, there's only one renunciation. Sattvic renunciation is true renunciation. Now, tamasic renunciation is when you renounce something, when you abandon your obligatory duty out of delusion or ignorance. So, tamasic renunciation is abandoning your obligatory duty out of delusion or ignorance. Now, the word obligatory or obligatory duty means something that which you ought to do, something which ought to be done, which you can't escape it. So you abandon your duty, or you give up something out of ignorance because you don't know the value of it, you don't know what needs to be done, you give it up out of ignorance. That is tamasic renunciation. Now, I'll give a couple of examples just to tell you, you give up something because you don't know the value of it. Such renunciation, he says, tamasic in nature. There was a very well-known wealthy man, but he did not know that he had put a stone as his door stopper. He just thought it was an ordinary stone he was using for many, many years as door stopper, and nobody got rid of it because he was a very stingy fellow. He didn't want to even buy a door stopper to put a stopper to his door. So he used to use a stone. Don't we still see old homes? They put a brick or something to use a door stopper. So he was using a stone. Many, many years later, it happened so that that stone was actually one of the most precious diamonds. So precious, it's one of the most rarest of diamonds. Once it got polished and cut, it actually was a very rare, precious diamond. Now, so why did that man put it as a door stopper? Hariji?
Because he didn't know it is a diamond. He thought it is only a brick.
He looked at it as a mere stone. Yeah. He didn't know that it was a
diamond.
A diamond. The moment he knew the value of it, he was cursing himself. Oh my God, what a fool have I been using it as a door stopper. See, but did he renounce it? Actually, no, he gave it up because of his ignorance. Of his ignorance, of his delusion. He didn't know what it is, therefore he gave it up. That's tamasic renunciation. Now, a second example is, a man was so obsessive of his collection of cars. One day when his husband went off for a long work tour, what the wife did, she called a garage fellow from the workshop, from a workshop. She called a fellow from the workshop and she said, please take these 2 cars, which has honestly been occupying space in the garage. And she gave away the old vintage cars to him and said, use it as scrap. And that fellow thought, oh my God, look at this lady. She's such a wise soul. She's giving away old vintage cars for a piece of scrap value she's giving away. And that fellow was almost worshipping her. You're a man, you're a lady of great renunciation. And after her husband came back, when he saw that the garage was empty without these two vintage cars, he got into a rage. So what happened? I gave it away. Why? Because they are unnecessarily piece of junk lying there acquiring dust. Once in a year, you take them out. No point. I create space for putting my garbage there. Now, the moment the husband educated, the value of the vintage car is 10 times more than the brand new car that they bought. She started running frantically to that workshop and said, where are those cars? I hope you did not dismantle them and use them as junk. You give away because you didn't know the value of it. Ignorance, you give it away. So tamasic renunciation is like giving away antique furniture. You don't know the value of it. Who wants that old furniture lying in the house? You give it away. You give it away free. So please come and take it. But it is extremely valuable. So when you renounce something or you abandon your duties out of ignorance, that is tamasic renunciation. Now, rajasic renunciation, he says, is relinquishment of anything due to any pain or bodily trouble. I share that again. Now, see, rajasic renunciation, when you relinquish an action or relinquish something because of a pain or there's some trouble associated or involved with it. Such relinquishment because of a pain or trouble, such renunciation is rajasic in nature. Now, how do you understand this? People give up something because of a pain associated with it. It's not that they don't want to do it. They want to do it, but out of fear or pain or bodily trouble, they don't want to do it. A simple example could be, yes, Hariji, I want something to say. Solongo.
Studying Vedanta. Because you have to put in so much of effort. So we give up.
So but you want the results of Vedanta, no?
Yeah, that
you
always.
you want to have the fruits of Vedantic wisdom, but you don't want to put an effort to it.
So that is the rajasic renunciation. Correct.
Rajasic renunciation. I know of a person who doesn't want to go for medical checkups. He says, if I go through medical checkup unnecessarily, they'll tell this is low, that is high. You have to do this test. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to change your habit. You must sleep more. You must eat less. You must do exercise. Why do I get into all that headache? I don't want to know. I have a fear of knowing what will be the outcome of doing checkup. Best is not to do checkup at all. Are you not concerned of your health? Yeah. Out of fear, what might come up, I don't do the tests. Rajasic renunciation. You give up out of fear or pain or the trouble you may have to face. I don't want to do business because so many government sanctions, so many government bodies I have to do. Therefore, I am not interested in doing business. Actually, I want to do, but because of the difficulty I face in doing business, you abandon that act. See, you're able to relate to that mindset or attitude. A boy loves a girl. All the time he's running behind her. He wants to marry her, marry her, marry her. But the family of the girl is creating so much difficulty, threatening him, short of beating him up. And suddenly one day he wakes up and he says, what is there in a girl? He renounces. He says, I renounced her. I am not interested in her, he says. Why is he saying that he's not interested in her? Because he's received fresh threatening calls from the family. Once more you are seen in the vicinity, you will be broke, we'll break your bones, we'll complain to the police station. Out of fear, what might happen to him? He says, what is there in a girl? He'll say, are there no other girls in the world? I'll marry somebody else. But he still has a desire for her. He still likes her, but he's giving it up because of What Apara Guru? I know the season is already here.
So the famous Panchatra story of the soul grapes. So
Please tell us the story, sir.
So there's a fox which was trying to, reach the grapes on the, reach the grapes, and it could not after multiple attempts, and it gets disgusted and says that these grapes are sour, and it leaves it.
Correct. So you give it away because out of unable to get it.
Unable to get it.
Unable to get it. Rajasic. But what remains in Rajasic renunciation is your deep desire or the value for it. Right? So, Mema, I can't pronounce the Tamil.
The Param Pulikim. The same story he told, no? Same thing.
Chi in the
Param Pulikim.
Palam.
Means sour only.
Sour fruits. Chi. Correct.
Same.
Right. Now, sattvic renunciation, in fact, the beauty of the definition itself is fascinating. Sattvic renunciation, he says, if you compare it to tamasic and rajasic, he says rajasic and tamasic, he says abandoning, relinquishing. But sattvic renunciation, he says, performing obligatory duty while relinquishing attachment and fruit. So the accent in sattvic renunciation is you perform your duty. You perform whatever your karyam karma is, whatever your dharma is to do, you have to perform. And once you keep to that spirit of identifying your duties and performing, thereafter you don't have to worry, because your actions itself will produce the results for you. But as far as you're concerned, you are acting with that spirit of renouncing the fruits and attachments. In fact, we have seen exhaustively, but this is just a pointer. But once you renounce the non-essentials and perform the action, you live a life of sattvic renunciation. You live a sattvic life. And the result of that is you reap the fruits, which is prosperity and peace. So if you go back into what we learned today, we started by saying that the primary motivations are prosperity and peace. One side of the world are prosperous, one side of the world are peaceful. The majority of the world are either rajasic or tamasic. They are not able to reach that state of sattva where they're able to combine that peace and prosperity together. And we gave ourselves a solution how to break this vicious, unending cycle, that is by getting over from rajasic frenzied action. You must get into a mode of performing inspired sattvic action. And the inspired sattvic action is when you conceive a higher cause and you work towards that cause, your actions become inspirational. And then we further learned that you must embrace action with the spirit of renunciation. Tyaga, Shantim, Anantaram. Then we said, demystify renunciation. Don't forget 3 examples. The 3 examples were Balasubramaniam sir, you can forget me, but don't forget these 3 examples. How did we demystify the concept of renunciation? 3 example கொடுத்தோமே. வந்துட்டீங்களா?
Maybe it has gone into my mind. Momentarily, I have forgotten.
But you forget what I offered you?
Banana, banana, yeah, peanuts. Sorry, but that.
So you didn't have your coffee. You didn't have your coffee.
Pistachio. Pistachio.
No, you didn't have your coffee. That's the reason you forgot.
Yeah, correct.
Your coffee has gone cold.
Pistachio, banana skin. Yeah, banana.
And chocolates.
Chocolates, wrapper. Yeah.
So we demystified the concept of renunciation through this idea that you renounce the non-essentials, right? And then we further went on to understand the non-essentials that you actually renounce in action is your wrong attitude, your egoistic notion, your unnecessary undue attachment, the worries and anxieties, the fruits of your action, or your complexities, right? So once you renounce the non-essentials, we understood that the three types of renunciation are the tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. And once you get into the true spirit of renunciation, you will reap the rewards of mental peace. You will reap the rewards of material prosperity because you become industrious, your actions become perfect because you renounce the fruits and appendages. So there's no mental worry. At the same time, since you're performing your karyam karma, your obligatory duty, your action becomes dexterous, productive, industrious, skillful, productive, and prosperous. So this is, in fact, the crux of the problem. This, in fact, is a solution to the problem, which is to rise from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva. So this is what I got to say. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Vinayji. Once again, a very exciting and energizing session. Does the viewers have any questions? Requesting the viewers to post your questions in the chat box, or if you would like to unmute and speak, you're welcome. Okay, looks like all of us are in deep reflection and thought. So that we shall meet again in the evening at 5 p.m. for the last session of the series. Let's conclude the session with a Shanti Mantra.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.